Evening guys, Real 111T here. Just going to do a video here about some butane stove options. I've never been a huge fan of butane stoves, but that's not entirely a rational standpoint that I have. I fully understand that there's a lot of situations where a butane stove might be the ideal sort of item to have with you. You know, fair weather backpacking trips, day hikes, you know, situations where simplicity and compactness, you know, kind of rule. Typically they're lighter weight than a multi-fuel type stove. Okay. And basically their disadvantages are, especially for this type, which are piggyback type backpacking stoves that set on top of the fuel can like so. Okay. The disadvantage is that in really cold weather, not a little cold weather, but really cold weather, like in the negative double digits, you'll start to have some negative effects. The pressure inside the bottle is really affected by the ambient temperature. Okay, so as that temperature gets further and further below the boiling point of the gas, if the gas itself is allowed to get to that ambient temperature, it'll become very sluggish. Output will go down. Eventually, logically, it will stop and the butane will just remain a liquid. Okay, and it will not evaporate out of the canister. Okay, now technically for butane, the boiling point's in the low 30s, between 30 and 32, right around what we consider freezing point of water, Fahrenheit. That is about where butane boils. Now, that's not to say that these stoves just don't work below 32 degrees. The fuel itself, they monkey around with mixtures of propane and isobutane, and they can get that performance a little bit better. Okay, but really for really cold weather use, this probably isn't what you want. But for just about everything else, you know, these stoves have quite an advantage. Okay, so basically the order that I bought them is basically as you see here. Okay, and a couple of these are fairly recent. I've used this one a fair bit, the Optimus Crux. That was the first one that I bought. This is the original version Optimus Crux. My talking points out of the way. Okay, I got a screaming deal on this on eBay. It was about $17. Okay, and it was right when the new black and green one came out, is when some clearance people got these on clearance and were selling them off cheap. I'm not sure if the seller quite knew what they got. If you get the new version of this, you're talking, you know, $40 to $60. I've seen them. That's quite a range, but way more than $17. Okay, and the cool thing about the Crux is that it folds up like this, fits inside of that pouch, and it's designed in the pouch to kind of stow in this space. So you use this hollow at the bottom of your fuel can. Okay, and I've used that on a few day hikes, but I was really excited, and I actually made a video about the Primus Classic Trail here, which is a lot bigger and quite a bit heavier now, I'm noticing right now, but it's a good entry-level stove. It was $20 at Walmart. They still sell these, $19.99, and it's a decent stove. I was really excited when they started selling that there. Okay, I made a video saying, look, this is a great, you know, stove. You want to run out and buy a cheap butane stove, this might be something to consider. Okay, so no sooner did I make that video, literally the next day, I was watching YouTube and heard people talking about this super cheap Chinese import stove, which is what we see right here. I've heard this stove, I'm not really sure what the brand on this stove is. Okay, but if you go to Amazon and type $6 stove in, $8 stove, $10 stove, I bought this for $6 with free shipping, although the shipping didn't turn out to be free because I bought more than $10 worth. I bought 3 of them, and that was more than $10, so the shipping wasn't free. But I digress. Just a little bit of a gripe. But it's turned out to be a decent little stove. You know, you've probably seen these on YouTube. You know, the legs unfold thusly. I'll give you a little platform there to set your pot. $6. So I was saying this is a great idea at $8 or $20. Well, here comes this. Okay, and so I picked this up and I played around with it a little bit. It does seem equivalent to about a pocket rocket by MSR, and it's got the auto igniter, which the pocket rocket doesn't have. So we'll see how this turns out. I am going to be doing a boil test of all 4 of these. Not today, not as part of this video, but I'm going to do a head-to-head. And then this last one, I was talking to a friend of mine, Shirlene Thompson, over at A&H Pack Stoves, Bella 10202 on eBay. And she's got this one. She's selling it for $12. But this right here is a knockoff of the Classic Trail, lo and behold. And this is I believe $12.95 is what she's selling this for, with free shipping. Okay, so I mean, clearly this is a knockoff of the Classic Trail. There's some design differences in the little jet portion down here, but basically that is the order that I got these in. Okay, and that is the reason. And I want to give these a try because all of a sudden now these are looking at some really great value options that some of you guys might be interested in. Okay, and so if I want to put them in order of expense, let me see here. I would rearrange them a little bit. I would put this one as the cheapest one. I'm going to put this one up here because even though I paid less for this than this, you can't get this for the price that I got it for. It was a fluke, definitely. So we'll put this as the more expensive one, okay, and that's obviously the least expensive one. Okay, so going from, you know, $6, you know, $12.95, $13, $20, and then, you know, $40 or $60. Performance-wise, we're going to see in that other video how they shake out, and we'll have to wait to see that. Okay. Now the next important thing to discuss, if I want to rearrange them one more time, flame pattern is an important thing that you want to consider if you're going to look to buy a stove like this. Okay, is what kind of pot are you planning on using it with? If you have a really narrow pot like this Primus Light Tech kettle, okay, very narrow pot, very narrow beam of flame that might come out of a pocket rocket or out of this little $6 stove. You know, they're really designed for a narrow pot to sit on there, really designed for water boiling. You know, there's nothing to stop you from using this in a wider pot, and if you're boiling water, it'll do just fine. But if you're trying to cook, having just a real kind of narrow flame coming off something like that is going to give you a real hot spot, no matter what material you're using. You know, this is an aluminum pot, okay, which transfers heat as well as you're going to get. Okay, but even so, if you had a wide aluminum pot, the narrow beam of that is going to give you a real dense little hot spot that's going to tend to burn in that area and not be as effective in the outlying areas. If you're just boiling water in a little like kettle like this, then it doesn't matter. And even in a wider pot, it doesn't really matter. What you don't want to do is take a narrow pot and set it on top of a really wide pattern like this. If you were to do something like this, what you're going to find is the flames are you're going to waste a lot of flames up the side. And that's not a very efficient way of running your stove because a lot of that heat is just lost to the environment. It's not being transferred into your water inside the pot. Okay, so for that you might want something like this stainless steel pot, which is wider. Okay, this is even bordering on slightly too narrow, but I've tried this on the Classic Trail and it works pretty well. Okay, so then I'm going to rearrange them one more time. basically, the next thing to consider is stability. A piggyback stove design is intrinsically less stable than a modular type stove like a Whisper Light or something along those lines, because they're much lower to the ground. Okay, and this is going to be perched up tall. Right here I've got a perfectly level table. Okay, out in the woods you might not find a perfectly level surface, so you have to kind of get the stove as level as you can, and then be very careful with your pot. Okay, so if I have to measure across here, let's take a look. Brought like the worst ruler you could possibly get for this. Okay, so this looks like about 3.5 inches across for this one. Actually, these two might be a little close. I don't know exactly how to measure this triangle. Well, we'll just go about like this. Yeah, this is about 3 3/4, 3. Yeah, just about 3 3/4 if you measure from here to the tip. So possibly this would be a little bit more stable. However, devil's in the details. Because of its clever design, one of the disadvantages of the crux is that there's a little bit of play in here, which makes it a little bit less stable. So I'm going to go ahead and say these two about the same in terms of stability, but this the crux does have a wider, more middle of the ground kind of flame pattern. Okay, so that's something to be aware of. Okay, let's take a look at this. Just shy of 5 inches for this one right here. So that is very, very stable. For your big wider pot, very stable. 5 inches across. And last but not least, this knockoff has a little bit of a secret, because look at this. I was kind of interested to see that. You measure this across. 7 inches. Okay, so stability wise, all things being equal, this one's going to be the winner. All right. So this is just a real quick overview of these four contenders that are going to be in our little fire challenge here. I don't know exactly when I'm going to get to put that up. It'll be sometime in the next couple weeks. I'm going to put up a follow-up video to this where I get out to the property. I'm going to do a boil test sequentially, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll see who can boil 2 cups of water. I'm going to probably pick a wider pot, okay, and because to just boil water, even the narrow one will work, and we'll be sure to be capturing as much of the flame as possible. So stay tuned, guys. That's what's coming up. Thanks for watching.